While we were gone, SIL, who was expecting and lived with us for free, threw away all of our food from the fridge. When I asked her about it, she called me fat. So I kicked her out. My pregnant sister-in-law needed a nice place to stay while she was pregnant, and the apartment she shares with 3 roommates wasn't really right for her. For the past 2 months, she has been living with our family for free. This is where the 22-year-old came to try to make it as a model almost a year ago, right after she graduated. She has learned how to do some modeling jobs and has been pretty good at them so far. But she had to put those plans on hold a few months ago when she got pregnant with her current partner. She has said that she wants to keep the child for personal reasons, even though they were only together for 6 months. But she can't live with her boyfriend because he lives with his parents and depends on them for money. My in-laws called my husband 2 months ago, a few weeks after she found out she was pregnant, and asked if we would be willing to help her by letting her stay with us for free for a few months. It's possible that living in the city has changed her because she was a completely different person when she came in than she was before. But we were happy to have her because she used to be a really nice kid. I've known her for that long because my husband and I have been married for over 7 years. We got along great before she moved here. This is where my husband went to college, even though he was born in a rural state and his parents are farmers. He would drive back home every weekend, since it was only a few hours away. We were together for 2 years before we got married. We met in college. I always got along with his family just as well as he did with mine, and now we have a 3-year-old boy. They are both honest, and my sister-in-law used to put her brother on a high. She was quiet and nice. One big reason she chose to move to our city after college was that she didn't want to work on the farm. She wanted to follow in his path and do well here. Furthermore, my partner and I had already built a good life for ourselves. Though her parents weren't sure because she had never been away from home before, we were able to get them to send her too. That being said, we helped her and convinced my in-laws to send her right away because we would be there for her if she needed us. We also told them that we were sure she could do well here because farming wasn't her strong suit. We thought she would stay in touch with us after she moved here since we were the ones who finally got her parents to agree with her plan to move. For the first few months, we did talk to each other. We showed her around the city and helped her pick out an apartment, and then she stopped being in our lives. Once she was moved in, she stopped calling or trying to stay in touch with us. We didn't mind, because we thought she might be too busy to keep in touch all the time. In the past few months, we hadn't really been close and had only talked on the phone a few times. We didn't know what was going on in her life until her parents told us. We were happy to help her even before she showed up for some reason. She was acting like a real diva now. Even though she wasn't famous enough to be a beauty yet, she already had the right attitude. If you get what I mean, she had a bit of an attitude problem. She started to complain about everything about our lives and act like she was too good for us, especially her brother. Everything, even the food we ate and the sheets in the guest room where she slept. There was something new and strange about this that we didn't understand. We tried our best not to get angry, even though the behavior was really annoying. The idea was still very new to us, but we thought it was probably just a phase, and that she got this habit from her friends or something. We're not exactly poor, but we also aren't exactly rich either, so the fact that she was always moaning about how we lived really annoyed me. My husband and I both work as engineers, so our lives were pretty normal. It wasn't like she was helping with any of the costs, so I didn't understand why she was so happy complaining about everything instead of being grateful for what she had. We didn't talk to her or my in-laws though, because my husband and I had already agreed to let her live with us until she found a way to support herself. We hadn't told anyone about our thoughts on this new version of her until now because we really don't want any trouble. However, I finally gave up and asked her to leave a few days ago because of something that happened on our overnight trip. My cousin's wedding required me and my family to be there. It was several hours away from where we were. She only had to spend one night alone while we were gone because we were coming back the next day. To be honest, my husband and I didn't think anything bad could happen. But when we got back the next day, I went to get some food and found that the refrigerator was empty. The fridge was full before we left because we like to keep things stocked, but it was empty when I opened it after the trip. I mean there was nothing at all. I almost thought the fridge had been broken into, but it was clear that wasn't the case. Only my sister-in-law had been home. Even when I asked her about it, she didn't say no. She told me that she had emptied the fridge the night before when we weren't home so that she could start a certain diet that would keep her from showing for as long as possible. She didn't want to miss out on any modeling jobs because of a bump or weight gain. It was because she knew I would never agree with throwing everything in the trash that she chose to do it when I wasn't home. Because of how casually she talked about everything. There was no doubt that she didn't feel bad about what she did and thought it was fine to empty someone else's fridge. Not only that, but the food she had thrown away was probably also worth a lot of money. We wasted not only food but also our hard-earned money because she wanted to follow a special diet and didn't think it was important to tell the people whose money she was living off of this. When I asked her about it, she said that she planned to switch to a plant-based diet in the future. Her first goal was to clean, though. She thought it would be very hard for her to stick to her plan if she saw us eating real food while she was only drinking juice. So she had to make sure we all stuck to her plan. This woman's level of pride and stupidity shocked me because not only was it very bad for a pregnant woman who needs all the nutrients she can get, but she also forgot about our son, who couldn't live on juice. This was true even though she was talking about it all in a very casual way. She was acting like it was nothing out of the ordinary to live with someone else's family. I tried to keep my cool around her. I told her that what she had done was wrong and that she would have to replace everything she had thrown away. Personally, I was very angry, but I tried to appear as nice as possible because I thought the request was fine. It was worse for her, though, because she looked at me, smiled smugly, and told me that she had done the right thing for the family because I could also use some weight loss. She did something wrong when she threw away all the food we had paid for. Then she used body shame against me, and I lost it. I didn't even yell at her, I just walked into her room and started packing her things. My husband and son had been in the room next door when they heard my sister-in-law yelling at me and trying to stop me. They went into the guest room. She was obviously not the person I thought I had asked to stay the night, so I told her she could no longer stay with us and watched as she gathered her things and left. I didn't want to help her anymore because she had turned into this spoiled brat from the quiet and nice kid we knew. She was so sure of what was best for her and her family that I was sure she would be able to find a place to live in the city on her own. She no longer needed our help, and we no longer needed hers. While I was screaming, she started crying, but I didn't care because she was the reason the last 2 months had been so terrible. Because she felt the same way herself. This new version of her liked making other people unhappy, so every moment my husband and I spent at home was really hard. But I was done with that, and ready to get back to normal life with my son and wife. She kept trying to get my husband involved in the argument, but he kept quiet and went back to his room with our child while I packed up my sister-in-law's things and then started walking toward the front door to kick her out. After I put all of her bags in the front yard and left, she started to scream even louder and told me she wasn't going anywhere. She still wouldn't say sorry. What I was going to do might have crossed my mind if she had just said sorry for everything. While I was mad, I grabbed her by the arm, pushed her out of the house, and then shut the door behind me. She cried outside for about 20 minutes more until I heard a car pull up and she left. The next day, I found out that she was living with her boyfriend, who had picked her up. What's the matter? I don't feel bad about anything I did right now. I don't know why it couldn't have been planned from the start. My in-laws, on the other hand, think I was way too angry and that I should feel bad for throwing her out of the house while she was pregnant. That's not true in my opinion because I've been angry and bitter toward her since the day she moved in. The only reason I hadn't confronted her about her actions was because I was afraid something similar would happen. I think she made me act that way, and I can't say sorry because I did everything I could to stay calm and not do anything that would upset anyone. That being said, I think my sister-in-law should apologize to other people because whatever she did was incredibly stupid and crazy. However, my in-laws don't see it that way. They want me to talk to her and say sorry for what I did because they think it was completely pointless. In my opinion, though, she had been looking forward to a bruise for 2 months, and she should have known that if she kept pushing our limits, this would happen eventually. We are all still people, after all. We are not some other higher form of life that can forget and move on. My husband would say that I was a little too mean to her when I kicked her out, but he doesn't have a strong opinion on the subject. He thinks that what I did was spontaneous. She was kicked out, though, for something that was bound to happen. He might have done it, but not me. Even though he thinks I could have been nicer, he doesn't think I need to apologize for anything. On the other hand, he doesn't think his parents are totally crazy for calling it an exaggeration either. Ida because she kicked my pregnant sister-in-law out of the house after she trashed everything in my fridge all night. Update 1: I kicked my sister-in-law out of the house 9 days ago. After fighting with my in-laws for a few days, I stopped answering their texts because I didn't know what to say. I don't think I can get them to see the problem with their daughter's behavior if they don't already. My husband thinks I was a little too harsh with him during the event, and I agree with him. Not only does he not think anything I did was wrong, but he also doesn't want me to say sorry for anything else. We're fine, him and me. I'm not worried about that. Because we haven't heard from her since he picked her up from here, I think she is still living with her boyfriend. I guess it's good for her. Luckily, my kid hadn't been asking about her, but he was still a little confused about what had happened. She got along well with our son, which was a surprise, so it was too bad she had to be kicked out this way. Anyway, I'm not going to think about what I should have done. It wasn't a surprise that she didn't send us any money to replace all the food that was thrown away. If my in-laws, or God forbid my sister-in-law, do decide to come back, I know one thing for sure. This kind of behavior is wrong, and I will not stand for it. Because of this, I will definitely demand that the money we are owed be returned. My in-laws haven't bugged me since I stopped replying to their last 2 messages 2 days ago. They told me to apologize to my sister-in-law and try to make things right with her, even if I don't let her move back in with us. I'm not going to do that, and I think it's silly that they want me to say sorry to her for what she did here. The home has a much better environment now that she's gone, and I like it that way. She has felt privileged and not grateful. It's too bad that this fight is happening because I've always gotten along well with my in-laws. But if they don't get my point, there's not much I can do. I don't think it's that big of a deal yet, so I don't think my husband will cut them off over it. He can still talk to them. He has still said that he doesn't want to talk to them right now because they only want to talk about what I did with his sister, and he doesn't want to keep having the same conversation with them. News 2: my in-laws came to visit me last night, which is a week after my last post. As I said in my last report, my husband and I stopped messaging me after I started avoiding them. We really didn't expect it. Since then, they hadn't even texted me. Because of this, I really didn't think they would get here so quickly to take care of this issue. When I saw them outside my house last night and had to let them in, I knew they weren't going to give up until they got the result they wanted. I thought we might have dropped it. They didn't spend enough time with my son, even though it was clear he was happy to see his grandparents. Whenever they come over, they play with our kid for the first hour. This time was no different. They talked to him for a short time and then told us they'd rather talk to us alone because they didn't want to talk about these things with our child. Since I didn't think his parents were there to talk to him, I asked my husband to take my son to his room. I thought they could talk to me instead. I chose to talk to them because I really wanted to end this for good. Many times they said I was being too harsh and that I had really hurt my sister-in-law, which is why they think I should say sorry to her. Also, they think that my reaction was a little too harsh given the situation and that, as the senior, I should have been more diplomatic. Then I made my points, which I had already made, and told them that the event that got me kicked out was the last straw for me, even though she had been rightful and a pain to live with before. I told them they could talk to their own child if they didn't believe me that she had been very bad while she was here. Additionally, I didn't believe I had overreacted, so I wasn't planning to say sorry to her. Even though I might have been too harsh, she really did deserve it. We were talking about the same things over and over because we had already talked about them on the phone. When I was done making my case, my in-laws were quiet for a while and then said that even though I was mad at her behavior, I should have thought about how it would affect the family before evicting her. They told me they could see that I didn't agree with what she did or what she said to me that day, but what I did was still pretty bad, and she was still family to me no matter what, so I should have thought about that. I didn't think that was a good reason because you can't excuse everyone just because they're family. Things between me and my sister-in-law got so bad that I had to stand up for myself, which I did. I told my in-laws that I might have forgiven her right then and there if she had at least tried to say sorry to me. She was kicked out though, because she didn't think it was necessary. I finally chose not to pretend to be sorry and say sorry to her because it would be fake since I don't feel sorry for anything right now. I said it very clearly because I was sick of talking about the same thing over and over again. and it was really hard to keep my cool while they kept acting like I was the bad guy in this whole thing. They finally got the message, which is what I had hoped would happen. They knew I didn't want to talk about it anymore, and that I wasn't going to say sorry for anything that had happened. Then they were quiet again for a few minutes. Then all of a sudden they got up and walked away without saying goodbye. Even though that caught me off guard, I kept quiet and let them go. It was clear that they didn't like my choice or the talk we just had. To be clear though, I had already made up my mind and let them know. Once they were gone, I told my husband that. They had also left while we were talking. We both think we've said everything we need to say and don't want to say anything else. That's why it's okay if they can accept that I'm not sorry if they can't. It's no longer our business. 3 days ago, my in-laws came to visit, but we haven't talked to them since. They showed us again that we were wrong when we thought this was finally over. I'm not really sure what their problem is. These people are going too far though, because they've now called my parents to try to get me to say sorry. A few hours ago, my mom called to tell me that my in-laws had come to their house to talk about things with the family. Parents told me I was being too selfish and self-centered, and they said that if I didn't apologize to my sister-in-law, the family would break up. But I don't seem to care. They talked to my parents to try to get me to behave better because I was being rude to them the last time they were here. They think I'm becoming more cocky and difficult to deal with every day, so I need to address my behavior. I couldn't really walk over and tell them what they were doing because my mom called me after they had already left, but I was still mad when she told me all of this. However, luckily, my parents didn't deal with them much. Instead, they told them that they didn't think it was their place to be involved because I was an adult and knew what was best for me. Even though it looked like they didn't like what was said, my in-laws left without saying anything else besides thank you. They could have helped me understand that family was more important than ego if they had talked to me about it. I think it's pretty funny that they would say that since I no longer think it's about getting sorry. I believe they want to get what they want by making me follow their rules. And the only thing that bothers them is that I'm not doing what they want. These people can stay sad though, because my husband and I have decided to cut all ties with them. This is more than enough, and I think I showed them enough respect on their last visit. But since they made up a story to say I was rude, I guess I will now live up to that. As of now, I've been trying to keep things calm and avoid making a fuss over nothing, but I'm just tired right now. I just can't make myself care about how they feel all the time. Especially when they treat my family badly and don't care about how I feel. We're done with them, and I don't think we'll see or talk to them again anytime soon, even if they say sorry. From now on, we're going to avoid interacting with them because we need some time and room. Hello everyone, this is update 4. The last time we updated was a few weeks ago, and since then, my in-laws have been banned. Following my last post by a few days, my in-laws called me again and texted me to let me know that my sister-in-law and her boyfriend had decided to leave and wouldn't have to come back. But it looks like she left some of her things in the guest room, which I missed when I was packing for her. She said her boyfriend would get them.